The brutal life of evil mob boss Cornelius Price. Get ready to dive into the darkest corners of the criminal underworld, where power, greed, and cruelty collide. Discover the chilling tale of notorious mob boss Cornelius Price as we peel back the layers of his malevolent empire. Brace yourself for spine-tingling revelations that will leave you questioning how one man's insatiable thirst for power could unleash a wave of violence that shook an entire city to its core. Watch now to uncover the shocking truth behind Cornelius Price's rise to infamy, his sinister methods of control, and the trail of destruction he's left in his wake. Are you ready to face the chilling reality of the brutal life of evil mob boss Cornelius Price? Don't miss this heart-pounding journey into the heart of darkness. Hit that play button if you dare. Cornelius Price, one of Ireland's most feared gangland figures, died recently at the age of 41. Unlike many others, his life did not end in a hail of bullets on February 19, 2023. After 16 months in a coma, he died in a hospital bed from a brain disease. Many believe the world is aware of the location because Price is widely regarded as a barbaric psychopath. But what gave him his reputation? Join us as we dive into the realms of his reign of terror. Disturbed World. Nick, also known as Naily Boy Price, was one of Ireland's most feared gangland bosses. He formed an alien gang with the notorious drug boss Owen Maguire and their gang, known as the Price-Maguire Group, which became a major player in the Irish drug trade, supplying other notorious figures such as the exclusive Mr. Big, who was a Romani man who ran one of Ireland's largest regional drug gangs from his gated compound in Gormanston County, Ireland. Price, as the leader of one of the opposing gangs, was caught up in the very violent drug feud with gangland killer Robbie Lawler, which began in 2017. It's believed that Price, amongst the litany of other terrible crimes, was directly involved in at least 4 murders in Ireland, of which we'll share the chilling details later in this video. Price had been on the radar of Gotti for about 10 years after it seemed he appeared out of nowhere in 2013 when he drove a van into a Garda station in Balbriggan, nearly hitting a Garda. He was convicted of reckless endangerment of a Garda and was sentenced to 3 years imprisonment. However, Price got out on bail in January 2015, and although one of the conditions was that he would stay at a house in Clondalkin, he hatched a plan to get back to his compound in Gormanston. This compound is the ultimate fortress, with only one entrance and a small, narrow road that makes it nearly impossible to penetrate, especially for guards. Inside, it's a hive of activity with gritty houses, about 15 to 20 mobile homes, and heaps of scrap that make it an ideal hideout for organized crime. It is not hard to imagine why Price wanted to get back there as soon as he could. Price staged a phony assassination attempt while sitting in a car outside the Clondalkin house, then used the phony assassination to petition for a change in his bail conditions, which worked. He was allowed to return to his compound, where he felt most in control, surrounded by his own people. There will be more on this later in the video. Cornelius Price was suspected of murdering Benny Whitehouse, a drug dealer with a €20,000 bounty on his head. Although they were best friends when they were younger, Price became greedy and paranoid and ended up in a feud over the supply of drugs and weapons. Price is thought to have directed one of the gang's contract killers to shoot Whitehouse in September 2014. After dropping off his 2 daughters at school, Whitehouse was fatally shot. He had just gotten back into his car, putting on his seatbelt with his wife, when a gunman approached and opened fire. He was a significant character in the underworld, and it's a shock that anybody would dream of taking him out, especially in the horrific manner in which he was killed. From that point on, he really started to dominate the area around Luton and Meth, and then, in April 2015, just 3 months after Price returned to his fortified compatriots, the couple had been living in one of the caravans on Price's compound. Willie had a bit of a drug problem, and that's probably what drew him there. It's a common practice for him to let vulnerable people live on his compound, provide them with drugs, bully them, and force them to commit crimes like hiding weapons and drugs. They wanted out when Anna became pregnant. Willie wanted to leave this hostile environment and start a family outside. He asked his mother to assist them, and she was on her way from the airport to the compound when the couple vanished. They were last seen and heard on April 14th, and they vanished in an hour. Their last known phone contact was at 2:57 p.m. Since Anna called the bully's mother and was heard calling for help, there had been no sign of them, despite extensive searches of the compound based on the evidence. Price's gang, according to ER, murdered them and disposed of their bodies. It could be a coincidence, but at the same time the couple vanished, there was a massive fire at the compound, fueling the horrifying theory that the bodies were burned in that fire, which has been mocked ever since. The Morin's family and their request for more information about their son and daughter-in-law. Gardy suspected Price was concerned the couple knew too much about his gang's activities. Specifically that Willie was aware of Price's direct involvement in the White House murder and wanted to get rid of them. My son was murdered because he had information in the White House remodel, and my son was relocating to Tala. And my son had information that he was too afraid to release. A couple of years later in 2018, Robbie Lawler allegedly shot Allie Owen McGuire multiple times at close range. This rendered him paralyzed and confined to a wheelchair for the rest of his life, further fueling the feud. Lawler's brother-in-law, notorious drug dealer Richard Calvary, was shot dead in retaliation, and Price is suspected of being involved. Although Robbie Lawler and Price were sworn enemies on one side of the drug feud, their appetites for brutal violence matched. They had several run-ins in North Dublin over the drug trade, and in 2018, Price attacked Lawler in Cork prison, leaving him with nearly 30 stitches. Robbie Lawler was the prime suspect in the brutal murder of Keen Mulready Woods in January 2020. The 17-year-old was lured to one of Lawler's associates' homes, tortured and murdered. His dismembered body was later discovered in several locations. According to the story, Lawler believed Keenan provided logistical support to Carberry's killer, so he had Keen's head delivered to Price's compound, knowing Price had found the teenager. The criminals who were supposed to deliver the gruesome package fled to the UK after being spooked by Garda, with attention shortly after Keen Mulready Wood's death, where he had a large network of travel community associates. Price allegedly planned the retaliation for Keen's murder from his new base in the Midlands 3 months after the teenager's death in April 2020. Robbie Lawler was assassinated in Belfast, and soon after, a video surfaced showing Price celebrating his death. According to Gardy, Price, Fair Play Today, was a key figure in 3 criminal gangs that planned Lawler's assassination in the Arduin area after luring him there under false pretenses. Price attempted to establish himself as a referee for bare-knuckle boxing matches and a mediator in criminal disputes after moving to the UK, but he was unaware that he was attracting the attention of specialized police. Detectives were on the trail of Price and his group, which included Limerick criminal Ger Dundon, 37, now known as Darren McLean, just 4 months after Lawler's death. When Staffordshire police learned of a 300-pound black male kidnapping scheme against alleged rival criminals, they launched a surveillance operation against them. Price and Dundon were 2 of 5 men arrested in July 2020, but Price was later found to be medically unable to stand trial after being diagnosed with a brain condition that put him in a coma in October of that same year. After a lengthy trial concluded in early 2023, Dundon was the only person convicted in connection with the scheme. Price's condition had deteriorated fast lately, and he died a slow and painful death. There have been some bizarre theories circulating about the cause of his brain disease, such as Price being poisoned or being repeatedly hit in the head with a dumbbell during a fight in jail. Cornelius Price left behind a wife and 2 children.